Hey, the fruit of the Spirit, patience. And look at the little sheet I gave you. The rest of them. Calm endurance without complaint. Don't you hate to have to put that last part on there? Okay. We'll look at that and each word of that in just a minute, but let me look at the rest of it there. You need to realize that long suffering, in the scripture there's actually two words that are used for patience. One is long suffering and the other one is just plain patience. And so I thought it would be good for us to notice. It is, long suffering refers to being patient with circumstances, situations. And it means that we don't give way to dismay, confusion, and discouragement. Isn't it interesting when circumstances don't go our way? It doesn't even have to be involving people. It may or may not be involving people. But it's real easy to get confused and discouraged, isn't it? I mean, I want you to see that it's easy to not have this. Okay. It's easy to not have any of it. Now, patience, the word patience means calmly enduring the things people do and say. So there's actually two different things. Kind of you were mentioning, because there are a lot of people, you know. But it also involves circumstances as it continues. Notice each word of this, it would, you know, there's the word endurance. That means to put up with it. Okay. Just to put up with it. Circumstances don't go our way, people not acting like we ought to, just putting up with it. But that's not patience. That's part of it. You add calm to it. For instance, can't you put up with something? You're in the checkout line, you know. I'm putting up with it, you know, but I don't like it. And I may be griping the whole time. Or I might just saying, I wonder why they're so slow today. You know, you're talking to whoever. You don't even know this person. You know. Or everybody it's real funny when you have more than one line, you know, and they're all long. Everybody's looking over. Is that line a little bit shorter? You know, is that line a little bit shorter? And then you look at they're just as frustrated as you are and stuff, right? Okay. It's not calm. You might be putting up with it. But when you add this, well, can you complain and not actually say anything? Oh, some of us are really good at that, aren't we? Okay. You can complain. Well, if you're just thinking, can you complain in your mind? Okay.
Body language.
Oh. Steam, you know. Yeah. Some of y'all have steam come out of you. Just the expression on your face or whatever. So, it is the fruit of the Spirit. And so when we don't have it, automatically, just remember now that there's two people vying for control every day, me and the Spirit. Now, if I'm in control, I'm going to be very impatient. That just comes with self. But if I'm patient, that comes from. Now, I can copy it. You know, remember the plastic fruit. We can have a little plastic fruit. But the genuine calm endurance without complaint is the fruit of the Spirit. So don't forget that. Okay. Because we keep trying. Now, you don't even have to know what it is. It's immaterial. But a person was basically being very aggravating to me this week. I mean, it's like they were trying to get me to be upset about something, you know. Have you ever seen, I mean, they're just picking at you, you know. And so, you know, and I could feel the impatience out of my flesh, my own nature, getting ready retaliate. I mean, just to feel this thing. And because, especially because I just studied this and fixed to teach it, it's on my mind. So, okay, Lord, I'm going to do just what I'm telling those people to do. Okay, I'm going to say no to me and yes to you. So, all the things that I'm thinking that I would love to say right now, or how I would react, I reject that. I repent of that. I want none of that. But I want you to develop in me the fruit of the Spirit of patience. And you let that come out. Well, did he? Yeah. Now sometimes it'll take him a while for the flesh to shut up. But he will do it. See, whenever but I have to turn loose of it. So I can't keep telling myself, but they just said that, and they just, I keep myself stirred up that way. But you say, no, I reject that. I don't care what they're saying. I don't care what they're doing. I'm not losing my cool because the Spirit's going to be my cool. Okay. Yeah.
My son told me something one time that was a good example. He was a college student, and he was in a grocery line.
Yeah.
And he got through with his groceries, and he didn't have 10 cents that he owed, and so the clerk is saying to him, I need 10 cents. And he's looking all through his pockets, hoping somebody would give him 10 cents, and nobody did. And he said, well, I probably got it in my car. And she said, well, go get it. So he went out to his car, got the dime. By then, probably the line, as you know, back to halfway down through the store. But I was so proud of him because he didn't lose his cool.
Right.
He didn't fuss at her.
Right.
He just went and got his dime, came back and paid it. And I said, well, there could have been a big to-do over that dime.
Absolutely. So,
it was.
She could have lost her job.
That's right.
That was probably the worst thing, and she might have been thinking about that.
But somebody in line could have gave him that dime.
Yeah.
10 cents.
Yeah.
anyway.
This was in California.
There you are. I would have given a dime.
Okay, look at your sheet. That was one way that patience was displayed. Okay, I have here on your sheet 5 ways that patience can be displayed. Now, these are not the only ways. I just thought we ought to make sure that we know what we're talking about. So how many of you were able to look up these verses? Let me just see. Okay, that's good. So that gives us a little bit. But we'll look at them and then hear what you have to say. Proverbs 15:18. What is one way that patience, the fruit of the Spirit of patience, is displayed? In Proverbs 15:18.
Excuse me, do you have a list of the verses?
Beg pardon?
She needs
I
Oh,
just-
that was from, I just didn't bring it with me.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Okay. Let me see if I have another one. You can go by. I don't think I do. Okay. So I'll say them what they are. Okay. Proverbs 15:18. What does it say is one way that patience is displayed? It can calm a quarrelous situation. See, and sometimes people are trying to quarrel with you, are they not?
Yeah.
And if you have patience, you just don't enter into the aggravation. But then sometimes a peaceful demeanor, a patient demeanor, can actually calm quarrels that are going on among other people. So it's just one of the good ways that it's displayed. Let me ask you this before we go on. How is impatience usually displayed?
Nasty words.
All kinds of body language. Anger, fussing, what you say, steam coming out of the ears, flying off the handle, throwing things. Road rage.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Right, and then stop thinking road rage is not the fruit of the spirit. Okay.
Fretting. Fretting is one.
Yeah, oh, worry,
Worry.
yeah, fretting, all kinds of, stuff. So, how come we are so good at that list?
We've all done it.
Because we live with people like that, that's why.
Amen.
Okay, look at verse 1 of that chapter. Do you see patience versus impatience in chapter 1? A gentle answer turns away wrath. That's the patience. A harsh word stirs up anger. Isn't that flesh versus spirit there, really? Fruit of the spirit versus the fruit of the flesh. Do you see that in verse 1? I mean, I tell you. And of course, I need to, thank you, I need to recognize that. Now, have you ever said a harsh word to anyone?
Yeah.
Oh, we need to study on that. Is that what you're trying to say? The tongue. You say, Alice, please don't talk about that one.
It can be the loudness of the conversation too. Like if your voice is real loud,
The tone?
you get louder and louder.
tone.
Yes,
Yes.
the tone, it just gets louder and louder, the tone of it, yeah.
Have you ever been the recipient of a harsh word? Man, that thing about sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me, that's not true.
That's not the truth.
Sometimes the words hurt worse than the sticks and the stones. They're gonna hit me with a stick and a stone, don't hit. Yeah, because it gets to your heart, and it's a problem. Okay, Romans 12:12. What's another way that a patient spirit is displayed, so that we can see it? We're good at seeing impatience, but what about patience? How is it? Romans 12:12. How is it displayed? Patient in
Troubles.
those are some ways to be able to do it. We're going to talk in a minute about how to add more of it. But how is it displayed? We're just looking about how does it seem? How is it seen? As Romans 12:12 says about how do we recognize it?
It's in trials.
And how we go through trials. I erased the definition, but calm endurance without complaint during a trial, during suffering, during affliction. You said, but oh my, that is so hard. Yeah, go ahead and admit it. It's impossible. That's why it's a fruit of the spirit, not of the flesh. So when I'm going through affliction and trial and difficulties, and all of us do, I need to ask the Spirit, please produce in me the fruit of patience, because I'm not going to have it. So you don't try it yourself. You can't do it. But if you really try it when you're under persecution and suffering and affliction, you realize how much you can't be patient. Can't be patient. Right? So in a way, that's good for us to realize, hey, I can't be patient. I need to depend upon the Spirit. Okay, Colossians 3:12-14. We want to see how it's displayed and spend most of our time on how to tap into the fruit, how to have more of it. Colossians 3:12-14. Colossians 3:12-14. I put in here that Look at the other pieces of clothing that are also a part of this. It's something you're supposed to be wearing so people can see. Look at the piece. Did you go to your closet this morning, to pick out what you were going to wear, and was this part of what you put on?
Not consciously, do you?
Well, why not? He says, clothe yourself. Does your translation say that?
I'm busy putting on.
You said, well, I don't have any of it hanging in my closet. Well, we should.
So that's different than arming yourself with the armor, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So, I need to clothe myself first.
Yeah, right, exactly. Look at what he says to clothe yourself with. He said, I pour down the hammocks and see if they have any of this. Look at it. Compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Clothe yourself with that.
Don't worry about trying to make a good impression.
Clothe yourself, humility. Okay, gentleness, which is one of the pieces we're gonna be looking at. And humility, meekness, we're gonna be looking at that one. So in essence he's saying, put on the fruit of the Spirit before you step out of your bedroom. Maybe before you get out of bed, if possible. So how do you do that? You say, well, okay, that looks good. I want to put some of that on. So how do I do it? You say no to self and yes to the Spirit. And just the moment we do that, he does a swap. But then we swap back.
Yeah.
Then you swap back. You swap until you can leave it. It's really quite simple, but we've made it very, very hard. Made it very, very hard. Now, if I do that, look at verse 13, what I'm able to do. If I put on this clothing, look at what I'm able to do in verse 13. What I'm able to do. I can't do verse 13 if I don't do verse 12. I can put up with you. Do you see that? You see, I can bear with each other. I can, the Amplified says, I think, make allowances for each other.
Yeah, me too.
See, I don't hold you to a high standard that I think, and then I just cut you right down at the knees if you don't meet it. I can put up with you. I can make allowances for you because I love you. So I can love you, I can forgive you, I can forgive whatever you've done. I can forgive you like the Lord forgave me. You see how desperately we need the Holy Spirit or not? Do you see that? I can't do any of that. The normal position is to hold grudges. Oh, I'll never forget that, buddy. Right?
Tolerate, love, same definition.
Go back and read what the fruit of the Spirit of love looks like. Love is patient, love is kind, love is this, love is this. Okay. In verse 14, what does he say? Okay, you've got your clothes on, now you're going to put your coat on. Because it's cold out there in the world. Now what's your coat? Over everything else, you clothe yourself with love. Now, if you forget what that looks like, we did that study. You go back and read 1 Corinthians 13. See if you've got your love coat on. This is very, very interesting. That's the way it's displayed. Okay, look at Proverbs 14:29. Proverbs 14:29. How is it displayed? How is patience displayed? How do we see it? It's a contrast here between a patient and an impatient person.
That's great understanding.
A patient person under the fruit of the Spirit now exhibits wisdom and understanding about life that a hot-tempered person doesn't see. A hot-tempered person displays what? Foolishness. Foolishness.
Does this mean that we can't have wrath, only just be slow?
Slow wrath. I love trying to find excuses for all of this.
That's what
I do.
happens.
We're good at rationalizing. Just find a little bit. Well, can I do this?
But it does say slow wrath.
Well, we'll see what the Spirit has to say about that. Say, Spirit, can I just be a little mad? Okay. Well, by the way, we're going to see there is a role. One of the pieces of the fruit of the Spirit does deal with anger. You got to wait and come back next time to find out about that. Okay.
If we're gonna be good.
Because when you see Jesus in the temple throwing out the money changers, that was he all of a sudden, did he lose all the fruit of the Spirit when he did that? No. So we've got to understand what that's about. But we better get a good understanding of these first, okay? These first four, I think. Okay, 1 Thessalonians 5:14. How is it displayed? 1 Thessalonians 5:14. Thessalonians 5:14. What does it tell us to do, which means it'll be displayed?
Patient
Huh.
with all.
Hmm?
Patient with everybody.
Warn.
Be patient with everybody.
In all circumstances.
And always keep your temper.
Would anybody like to just sort of cut that one out of your Bible? Be patient with everybody. Have a good temper with everybody. Everybody doesn't deserve it.
The beginning of that tells us that we're supposed to do it earnestly, but I guess with love. I guess.
Yes. Oh, you guess. Yeah.
I love you, so I'm gonna slap you upside the head, you know. Slowly.
I know. In fact, there's a whole lot. If you want to just see how far short we're falling from all of this is when you think about hold them, verse 13, hold them in highest regard and love because of their work, live in peace with each other, warn those who are idle, encourage the timid, help the weak, be patient, make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, always try to be kind to each other and to everyone else.
Yeah.
Do you know why he wrote all this impossible stuff down?
So you'd have to get him help.
So we couldn't do it.
Yeah. So, you know, I have color. Look at all the yellow in there. Do you see the yellow in there? The yellow verses in mine, it doesn't matter what color you pick, are things that he says that I should be doing or should not be doing as a child of God. It's very, very good to go through and do a little spiritual checkup, just reading the verses like this. You see how they are just in there in Thessalonians? And what this shows me right off is, I can't do this. But I know someone who can, and I have someone who can living right inside of me who will do it if I just stay out of his way. And when I get in his way, then I say, Lord, there I go again. I got in your way. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Would you please produce your lovely fruit in my life? He said, anytime you want me to, Alice, that's why I'm living inside of you. Quit trying to do what you cannot do. So I read that and I said, I can't do that. He said, well, good. Now you know. You can't do it. Quit trying to do it. Just let me do it. Well, that seems to be so passive. It's not. It's the hardest thing you'll do all of your life is getting out of his way. It's the hardest thing we do all the time. Is getting out of his way. Did you realize that? Okay. Now, when I asked you earlier about patience, we're going to look now at how to have more, how to tap into what we have. Do you realize that you have all the patience you'll ever need? Yeah, but is this all covered up? I can't find it. Well, we're going to find out how to find it. You know, how to release it. That's what we're going to do. But a minute ago when I asked you a question, and Devron hit it on the head here, the reason that patience just sort of gets everybody's attention, I think, is it is one of the best revealers of self. Impatience is one of the announcements that self is in control. It is, for instance, let's look at it this way. Let's look at road rage. There's what I'm saying. I don't have road rage. I just get a little upset. You know what I mean? I get a little mad. I mean, some people have a real fun. You know, mine is just a little aggravation. Okay. We gotta stop rationalizing whether our rage is enough to run them off the road or just to say something to the passengers in my car about that stupid jerk that just pulled up front. Okay. Are we being honest with one another here now? Okay. Do you realize, and this is what Deborah was pointing out to us, do we not realize that when I get impatient in a checkout line, let's just take our little impatient example. You can give me yours if you want to. Basically what I'm saying is, hello everyone, the Queen is here, and she wants to check out and get on her way to her important activities. Please get out of the way. Right? Okay. Road rage. Okay. Oh, excuse me, not rage, just aggravation or irritation. Hello. Queen of the Hill is driving on this road and she has an important destination. You mustn't be so slow that you keep her from getting where she wants to on time, because then people might think she's irresponsible. And she's not irresponsible, she's the queen of the road. Right? Now you just think about it. Anybody says something to you that, you know, whatever, it makes you aggravated. You go to the doctor's office. How could you misplace my appointment? I'm queen of this practice. I'm the most important patient that you have. Now I'm being, would you say, a little melodramatic here, but it's to make a point. It's to make a point. Because is it not really what we're saying?
Too, Dr. Steve, you talk about the grocery line or Walmart or whatever, and we all experience that. But how about if you do this, and I've been known to do this, that body language that you talked about, and that person is in a hurry, let them go in front of you. I've done that. Why don't you go in front of me? And I'll say, I'm not in a hurry. And they'll say, thank you. Just do some act of kindness, you know. Anyway, just a thought.
Would you do that if they had a big basketball?
Yes, I've
and you
done
had
that
two
before,
things?
yes, I've done that before.
See,
Yes.
one of the problems the Lord convicted me
Yes.
about was,
But then before you-
and it's not a problem now that I'm retired, but before I was retired, it's like I was always in a hurry to get somewhere. And I was setting myself up for being impatient. Because if I had just allowed myself 10 minutes, and then somebody slowed it down more than 10 minutes, you see what I'm saying? So we have to use our brains how not to be irritated. Same thing with driving. I used to say, okay, I gotta be there, I'm gonna leave right, I know it's exactly. But then when you hit a light or somebody, so you learn how to not set yourself up for failure. Is what I'm
Plan ahead.
When we were coming back from Indiana, we were stuck in a, hour and a half stop traffic. And, you know, you talk about.
Stop traffic,
Yeah. So you know how impatient you can get then. You know, what is going on? Why do these,
Oh, sure,
construction
sure,
people
sure.
take 3 lanes and go down to
Sure.
one? And so we started going a little bit, and then we got stopped again. And we
Okay.
got to the top of like a hill, and a man was there, and his car had overheated. And of course, that was blocking traffic too, and I thought, you know, here I am, I don't have anywhere to go, I don't have any time.
Exactly.
But I thought about all the people in line who, you know, they've got to get somewhere.
Absolutely.
You know, so.
It's so you
Yeah.
can pray about
Do
this.
the calm endurance.
There's a whole lot of-
Calm
Yeah.
endurance, you know.
That's a whole
We'll
lot.
get through this.
A lot you can do.
Nobody sat somewhere forever.
I tell you, the time when I was on staff at one of the churches around here, and at that time in my life, I wasn't right. I know exactly how long it takes, and there was, and I'm on the staff, and so I can't be late, and it shouldn't be. And so, so I get, and there's a slow driver on Sunday morning. I mean, what are you doing Sunday driving on Sunday morning? West side in the afternoon. Okay, but I mean, we're talking about he's almost parked, you know, he's going that slow, and so, and of course I can't get around and stuff, and so, you know, this is before the Lord dealt with me about some things. But I'm going to show you sometimes how He'll deal with it. And so, I was just, I mean, you know, a lot of times I'm going to be late. This is, you know, what are you going to think? I want to show you, blah, blah, blah. You know how that goes. Well, we came up over this hill and came upon an accident that had just happened. I mean, a deadly accident. And the Spirit said to me very, very clearly, I just kept you from being in the middle of that accident by sending that slow driver. You don't think I learned a lesson that I've never forgotten? That I never, since that time, and that's been 20 years, I complained about a slow driver. I said, well, Lord, somebody might have creamed me over the hill there, you know, thank you. So it's your perspective. A lot of it is your perspective. I'll pray for the people on the checkout line. I said, Lord, I'm so thankful I don't have to do that for a job. Would you please bless them? I know this is hard on them. They got to stand on their feet, all that stuff. It's your perspective, okay? So try it. You'll be surprised. Okay, how to have more. Let's look at a few things. Well, 2 things that aren't on here that I want you to write on here. One of them is a reminder that it is a fruit of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22. How to have more. You have more. Let the Spirit have more of you. We've already got more, all of Him. But the fruit of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22. That's how to have more. Romans 15:5, you don't have written down. I want you to write that down and turn to it here just a moment. Romans 15:5 says, may the God who gives endurance and encouragement give you a spirit of unity among yourselves as you follow Christ. So who gives us endurance? That's what patience is. Common endurance. God. So if I need more, I just ask for it. Okay? But there's more instructions. By the way, not only is it the Queen of the Hill, or King of the Hill, fellas, syndrome, that we have that makes us impatient. I'm also expecting other people to be perfect. Somebody almost pull out in front of you, almost make you run off the road or whatever you think. I expect you to be perfect and never make a mistake. I expect you to always go the right speed. Do you see how illogical that is? I expect other people to be perfect,
Like me,
especially when it puts me out.
and perfect like me.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't mind if there's another queen as long as you stay on your heel. Okay. Proverbs 19:11. What does it say?
Man's wisdom gives him patience.
Proverbs 19:11. Amplified, I think, says, good sense makes a man restrain his anger.
And overlook offense.
It's his glory to overlook an offense. And wisdom gives him patience.
Should have a woman in there, but discussion of a woman.
So how can I be smarter? I can learn how to overlook offenses. Okay, when I see somebody do something that I think makes me impatient, and I think, why am I expecting them to be perfect when I'm not perfect? Do people ever get impatient with you, by the way? No! If they do, I can't understand why they do. As wonderful and perfect as I am, I don't know. It's got to be their fault. Definitely got to be their fault. Okay, look at Colossians 1, 9 through 12. Colossians 1, 9 through 12. Sometimes it's good just to laugh so we don't have to cry about how badly we're doing on this. Colossians 1, 9 through 12. Paul is saying here, we're praying for you. In fact, we've not stopped praying for you. And we keep asking God to fill you with the knowledge of His will through all spiritual wisdom and understanding. And we pray this in order that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and may please Him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might, so that you may have great endurance and patience. Do you know that we need to pray for each other, that we have, look at it there, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might? We can say, Lord, I am going through a tough affliction. Will you please empower me by your strength to go through this with great endurance and patience? I need to pray that for you. Lord, they're going through difficult times right now. Will you empower them by your great power and strengthen them in their spirit that they may have great endurance and patience? I don't hear that being prayed much in our prayer meetings. I have to check my own prayer life. Lord, how much am I praying for people that they be empowered to have endurance to put up with what they're putting up with? I mean, we may be doing it sometime, but we need to do more. So I put down here how to have more pray. Pray more. Pray for others more. See, I think sometimes we laugh and kid about being impatient when I should be repenting that I'm not. I think sometimes we joke and excuse that I'm impatient like everybody else, instead of going before the Father and say, Father, empower me to be different from everybody else, but to be filled with you so that you can display your patience and endurance through me no matter what I'm going through. You see, there is a difference. As long as I keep excusing the weakness of my old nature, I'll not make any progress. I've got to stop excusing myself. I've got to stop excusing you. I've got to stop excusing other people. Say, oh, I'm just weak. Oh, I just learned this from my grandmother. Whatever it is. We've got to stop it. Until we stop it, we're not going to make any progress. Absolutely not going to. We cannot say, that's just who I am. That is just who I am, but it's not who the Spirit is. James 1, 2 and 4. James 1. If you just want to spend yourself reading yellow verses, go to James 1. I mean, James, all through James. The whole thing is yellow. James 1. James 1, we'll start with verse 2. We just had 2, 3, and 4. He says, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. And I think you are out of your mind. And by the way, whenever you face trials there, it literally means whenever you're enveloped in them, when you're enveloped in them. It's like somebody stuck you down in a manila envelope and licked it shut. And the envelope is named tribulation. And you're inside, you just don't know if you're ever going to get out or not. And you hear this little word said, you need to be full of pure joy. But I'm in the envelope. How can I be full of joy? He said you need to change your perspective on when you're in the envelope. What's God doing? What's God doing? And he tells us in verse 3 what God is doing. When we suffer persecution and difficulties and trials and we're stuck in a manila envelope, what is God doing? Can you see it in verse 3? What is he developing? Oh, is that what we're studying about? You see, I don't know if I want any patience or not, Lord, if I will be put in a manila envelope.
It's so hard when you're going through something to say that, what am I going to learn out of this?
That is what we have got to have. That's why we have got to be so filled with this that we can hang on to the truths here even when we're about to die, literally or figuratively. We've got to. That's the only thing that will help us. Lord, I know you're in control. I know you're going to give me grace. I know you're teaching me something. I trust you. He says, okay, here's what else you've got to do in verse 4. And I like verse 4. Not that I don't like the rest of them. I'm challenged tremendously, but
It has to finish its work.
perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything, not having any defects. And I put down here, perseverance must finish its work. I wrote down on here that when I'm in the envelope, I need to submit and let it happen. And see, I am not going to rest in the middle of my trials and difficulties if I don't know that God's in control. he says basically, simply let it happen. Let me have it. Let me work in you to develop you. And he says, verse 5, if you don't understand what's going on, lacking wisdom here, by the way, doesn't have anything to do with what my students used to say. When you ever take your test, I'm going to pray to God to give me wisdom and make an A on your test, Alice. Dr. Cullinan, they call him. Dr. C. Dr. C. Couldn't say Cullinan, and I can understand that. So. I said, no, that's not what this is talking about. This is talking about wisdom when you're in the envelope.
That's right, you need the wisdom.
If you lack wisdom when you're in the envelope of trial and difficulty, and boy, don't you usually?
Yes.
He says, what do? You ask God. That's what we did for Jack. Ask. In the middle of difficulty, they needed God's wisdom. And the wisdom he's saying here to ask for is ask me for wisdom to see this from my perspective. God, help me see this from your perspective. From my perspective, it looks awful. It looks disastrous. Kidney cancer and 2 broken arms. Looks disastrous. See, God, help me see this from your perspective. What are you going to do, God? What are you going to do in this for her family? You see what I'm saying? This is what he's talking about. Okay, look at Hebrews 6, 11, and 12. Back up from James and run into Hebrews. Hebrews 6, 11, and 12. Let's look at basically the main thing is in verse 12. We do not want you to become lazy. You know, we Christians can be lazy spiritually. Terribly lazy spiritually. We don't want you to become lazy. What we do want you to do is to imitate those who through faith and patience inherit what has been promised. And by the way, kind of when you demonstrated in the checkout line patience by letting somebody go ahead of you, hopefully other people then at some point would imitate that, you see. So while I'm learning, I need to look around and see who is displaying patience, and then I need to imitate that behavior. This is what he's talking about. So when I see people going through trials and difficulties, and they are exhibiting to me that they have faith and patience, the writer of Hebrews says, I need to copy that. And how can I do it? I can't, except they obviously are depending on the Spirit. I need to depend upon the Spirit. Okay. So you don't do it yourself, but you depend upon the Spirit. Let's go back to James. There's something else I want us to see in chapter 5. Go back to James. James chapter 5. What I want you to look at in here, and I'm gonna put some stuff on here. If I want, for instance, when I came upon the hill and saw the wreck that I would have been in and probably killed, do you think it changed my perspective at all on how important was it for me to get that slow driver off the road? When God used that slow driver to keep me from being killed. You see, does that change my perspective? Well, what happened to my impatient attitude? Flew out the window, didn't it? All I did was change my perspective. I've given this illustration before, but some of you may not have been here. Let's say you're driving down the road, and you may or may not be in a hurry to get somewhere, and somebody pulls right out in front of you, and you thought, oh man, I almost ran into him. And not only did they pull out in front of me, almost made, and so I'm just, oh, what's the matter, crazy lady, what is about to kill me? And so you're impatient, I go, shh. And then you look and you notice it's the woman who's driving, is a kid in the front seat, and the kid is bleeding from the head. You can tell, and they're holding a towel over there. They're obviously on their way to the hospital. Now, does your perspective change?
Yes,
Did your feelings change when you saw that?
yes.
That she wasn't just some little crazy driver that should have waited until you left, but she was in the hospital, going to the hospital, trying to save her kid. You see, and your feelings change, just like that, when your perspective changes. So to develop more patience, we need to have our perspective changed. And I want you to look at chapter 5, verse 7 through 9. No, let's do through 11. And you underline or make a note of the things that I should keep in my mind if I want to follow his advice when he says be patient. He says 7 through 11, he gives me some things for me to focus on. This is what I need to focus on that will keep me from being impatient. So you underline them and find them, and then we'll put them up here. If we don't have time to write them, we'll at least mention them. Am I supposed to keep them on my mind? All right, let's take a verse at a time. You can keep writing notes just for the sake of time. Let's go. What do you think he's suggesting in verse 7 that we need to keep in mind?
Coming in for Lord. The coming in for Lord.
Okay,
Takes them both two places.
how will that make me be more patient? To think of that.
We don't know when it's gonna happen, but we gotta wait for it.
How would you like him to come when you're in the middle of road rage? Okay, that was a very interesting reaction that you had there. Okay. I think basically he's saying, keep in perspective that all of this is going to just go passing away. It amounts to nothing. It's not as big as a hill of beans, whatever the hell or how that is, you know, as the old folks used to say. Not worth a hill of beans. Keep your perspective. Something else in verse 7, he says, about watching for the farmer, wait for the crop, see how patient they are.
He waits for the rains, for the goodness.
Okay. There's a lot can he make it rain? Okay. We have got to stop controlling what we can't control. I cannot control other people's behavior and how fast they go through the line. I didn't hire the one who's there, whether they're competent or incompetent. I've got to stop controlling things. We're control freaks, okay? I want to control the highway so people stay out of my way.
Just because we're retired, that don't mean we've slowed down now.
I know. I agree.
With a different kind of fast.
Exactly.
Hurry.
So, life is filled with things that I have to wait for. So, when I go to the doctors, I know I'm going to have to wait. I take something to read. Then, I'll just read. And if they tell me you're not supposed to be here, well, I'll see. When am I supposed to be here? You know, I'll go and see somebody else. You know, so. Okay, it's an attitude. Okay, verse 8. Verse 8. That's an ice cream man. That's an ice cream truck. Y'all want some? Okay,
Stand firm.
That's $20 to your favorite charity.
that's right. That's right. That's right. We'll have a new rule here. If your phone goes off during class, you spend the $20. Okay. Stand firm, because the Lord is coming is near. No one on that. Don't grumble.
Oh, goodness.
Does yours say don't grumble?
Or you will be judged.
Well, I thought maybe I could
Other brother and sister.
grumble a little bit. No, don't grumble. Why should I not grumble?
They're just standing at the
Yeah,
today.
Who is the only one that has a right to judge stuff? Not me. Not me. Oh, we're little judges. We're little judges. Okay, 10 and 11 basically said if you want to develop patience, think about people who really needed patience and how they did by depending upon the Lord. The prophets threw them in the hole, killed them, judged all that he went through. You know, it's amazing. If you've not read the book of Job lately, I highly recommend it. Read it in the translation that you can understand, and read it like a story all the way through, and listen to the conversations between Job and his friends and stuff. It's fascinating. A lot of good spiritual truth in there. It's really excellent. Okay, we got a couple more here before our time is up. I go dashing off to a meeting, so if I dash off, I'm not mad at you. I got a meeting to go to. Okay, Psalm 37:7 basically says, "Be still."
And we don't.
How easy is that?
We don't.
Have you noticed how many things this book says is just impossible to do?
And do not fret.
Oh no, it said do not fret either. In fact, in the psalm it said it 3 or 4 times. What is the matter with these people writing down all this impossible stuff and expects me to do? You know, the main point is, I think, is to get it across to us that it is impossible for us to do, but it is not impossible for the one who said, write it down, let them know. They can't do it, but I can. That's why I'm giving them the Holy Spirit inside, because they're going to need a lot of help. Need a lot of help. And if nothing else, I need to learn from this Fruit of the Spirit study that I can't produce it. I want it, but I can't produce it, but he can. Okay, Ephesians 4:2-3. I need to often pray, Lord, make me still before you. Make me still before you. As long as I'm fretting, he can't say a thing or do a thing. And sometimes I'll use the music and I'll just play it till my spirit simmers down. In Ephesians 4:2-3, let music be your help. Be completely humble. Now that is really easy. Honestly, I have so many yellow verses, it's just driving me nuts. Not be a little bit humble whenever you can manage it, but be completely humble. Now, where do we see the fruit of the Spirit of humility? You think we're having trouble with patience? You wait till we get to some of these other ones. Be completely humble and gentle. And be patient, bearing with one another, making allowances for one another because you love them. And remember, love's first. Peace. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Do Baptists need to read that one? Do Presbyterians need to read that one? Okay. They do. All right, let's look at Revelation 14:12, and then I've got one more. And then I want you to add this now on your list, and then we'll close out. And see, you get a whole month of September to practice having all this fruit, okay? And you're gonna come back and tell me how marvelous you did. Revelation 14:12. He's talking about what's gonna happen at the end of time, in verse 11, and about the people that are gonna be thrown into hell, really. The smoke of their torment rises forever and ever. There's no rest day or night for those who worship the beast and his image, or anyone who receives the mark of his name. So it's going to be kind of rough at the end of time. And he said, this calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints who obey God's command and remain faithful to Jesus. Okay, to me the clue there is to have patient endurance. And talk about a difficult time. This world is headed for it. I don't know whether it's going to let us be here, rapture us out, we're going to go through it. Our offspring are going to go through it. I don't know. But he says it calls for patient endurance when you see all of that. And the only way to have this patient endurance is to have a lifestyle of obedience and faith. You see those two words? The best way to build your patience and your endurance is to build your obedience and your faith. And to build your faith, the Word of God and prayer is the best way to do it. To build your obedience is learning how to say no to yourself and yes to Him. That builds your obedience. Then you will be able to patiently endure. Okay? One more is in Hebrews 12:7. Hebrews 12:7. I saw this one and wanted to add it. Okay. Hardship. Calm endurance without complaint. Okay. Endure hardship as discipline. Now the word discipline there means to teach us something. So there's two reasons that we have hardship. And sometimes God actually engineers the hardship to teach us something. Did you know that? But in addition to the teach, don't think of discipline as He's got a big stick and buddy, you're in trouble if you don't do what He says. Don't have that conception of God. It'll make you afraid of Him. We need to worship Him in awe, but not to fear Him in terror. He is a loving Father. He wants us to be filled with the Spirit, so He teaches us. But secondly, not only does He want to teach us to make us smart, so that we can do life like He wants. In verse 10, He teaches us for a very express purpose. Look at verse 10. He disciplines us, He teaches us for what purpose? For our good, but then that's more. So that we can share in His holiness. Now let's reword it in light of our study. He teaches us so that we can participate in the fruit of the Spirit. He teaches us, often through hardship, so that I can participate in being filled with the fruit of the Spirit. See, that's why we're doing this study. He's teaching us. And in life's experience, it's not to hurt us, not to make us smart. It's so we participate in the Spirit who is within us. Okay? You get to practice now for a whole month on saying no to self and yes to the Spirit. And keep your sins confessed every day. And you will be surprised at how much He will produce in you. Okay? Let's pray. Father, thank You for blessing us, for teaching us. We have a long way to go, Lord, because the flesh is so smart, so strong. But thank You for shining Your searchlight upon us and teaching us. And may we profit, Lord. That's truly what You want, truly what we want. So help us, I pray. In the name of Jesus, amen.